Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've gathered a bunch of sources that really point to a major inflection point for AI and robotics, like right now. We're looking at this messy, pretty complex picture covering, well, everything from Hollywood drama over synthetic actors all the way to the massive physical infrastructure needed just to keep the lights on.
Exactly. And our mission really is to try and navigate this huge tension. There's this, immense hype, the whole genie is out of the bottle idea, innovation just racing ahead. But then there's the reality check. You're seeing sources now openly using the term AI bubble.
Right.
So to figure out where we actually stand, we've got to look closely at both sides. The amazing successes, the new benchmarks, but also the, frankly, frustrating and expensive failures happening when businesses try to implement this stuff.
Absolutely. And what these sources seem to show is this, three-way battle shaping up. You've got AI challenging human creativity, then AI pushing the limits of what code and autonomous systems can even do, and finally, AI completely redefining what we need in terms of hardware power, the whole physical side. So let's dig into this moment, maybe starting where it feels most personal. The human face.
Yeah, the human face. You have to start with Tilly Norwood. You heard about this, the 100% AI-generated actress. The creators were genuinely hoping she'd be like the next Scarlett Johansson or Natalie Portman, a digital superstar.
And the reaction was immediate and intense. It's easy to just write it off as, Hollywood being Hollywood, but when actual agents started showing interest in signing this AI, real actors spoke up. Emily Blunt, for example, she called it really, really scary. She was urging agencies to, stop making this seem normal.
Right, because it stops being just about art and immediately becomes about economics, about jobs. Now, Tilly Norwood's creator defended it, saying it's like animation or CGI, a creative work, a piece of art. But, that kind of misses the point about labor, doesn't it?
Yeah, the human element changes the game.
Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg, I thought her take really hit the nail on the head. She talked about unfair competition. Her point was, a human actor is suddenly competing against something built from, 5,000 other actors? That's her phrase. An unfair advantage.
And that unfair advantage isn't theoretical anymore. It's happening fast. We already had the Scarlett Johansson thing with OpenAI, right? They put out that voice assistant, sounded just like her, and she threatened legal action. They had to pull it.
And it's not just voices or faces in movies. Just recently, Vogue got a lot of heat. They ran an ad for Guess, the fashion brand, but used an AI model, not a person. And you connect that to the actors' strike just 2 years back. AI was a huge sticking point then. People thought this was maybe, years away. But the sources are clear. It's here now.
The speed. That's the thing. It's just happening so fast.
Okay, let's talk about speed in another way. The tech race itself. Coding. Because despite some chatter about a slowdown, the sources say that's greatly exaggerated. Anthropic just rolled out Claude Sonnet 4.5. They're pitching it as a big step towards real-world AI agents. Systems that can actually use complex tools on their own.
And what's really interesting there is how competition is driving down costs. This new Anthropic model, it's 1/5 the price of their last big one, Opus, from just last month. They're citing internal efficiencies. So it's not just better tech, it's a huge price drop. And you see that pressure elsewhere too. DeepKey, the big Chinese AI company, cutting developer tool prices in half. So the race is really heating up around who delivers the best autonomous gun cheapest.
Right. That pressure really sets the stage for, maybe a new contender. Deep Agent Desktop from Abacus AI. This thing just dropped some benchmarks that apparently shocked the industry. Scored higher than the usual big names. This feels like the aha moment in the sources, like actual data showing a shift.
It is pretty compelling data.
This is the brief on the premium content available from AI Now. Hey, so if you're enjoying what you hear on our daily show, right? Well, this premium stuff, it's basically your fast track. We're talking about taking all that AI knowledge and actually using it, right away. Moving you from just knowing things to really doing things with AI. Okay, so first up, the big thing is efficiency. You know how fast AI moves? It's crazy. Staying updated is tough. So what we do is cut through all that noise. We distill the really important trends, the tools, the strategies, give them to you straight, all actionable insights. It keeps you ahead without wasting any time. Second, what do you actually get? Well, for just $4.99 a month, less than a fancy coffee, you unlock a bunch of exclusive series you won't hear on The Daily Show. There's weekly deep dives with AI Now Educate, practical stuff on tools and business strats with AI Now Commercial, and even deeper analysis and frameworks in AI Now Conceptual. It's the whole package. And finally, we made it super easy and low risk to jump in. Seriously, it's totally beginner-friendly. Alex and Jessica, you know them, they break down even the tricky stuff. Plus, you can give it a whirl for 30 days, grab those strategies, and if it's not for you, cancel anytime, no problem. Easy peasy. Bottom line, AI Now Premium gives you that complete, up-to-date knowledge and the practical strategies you need to really get a handle on this fast-changing AI world.
Yeah. But let's quickly break down what these benchmarks mean. So, terminal bench, that basically measures how well an agent can use a command line, which is like fundamental for actual coding work. Deep Agent Desktop scored 48.75%. That's quite a bit higher than GPT-5 Codeex, which was around 42.8%.
Okay, and then there was SWEBench verified. That sounds important.
No, it is. SWEBench verified. Think of that as the gold standard for fixing bugs automatically for real software engineering tasks. It's the ultimate practical test. Deep Agent scored 74%. That's a huge lead.
Okay, so the numbers look good, but everyone claims great benchmarks, right?
Yeah.
What makes this Abacus AI thing fundamentally different? Why is it doing so much better than, say, GPT?
It seems to be the architecture. It's not just a language model. It's more like a whole desktop suite. It has 3 modes: command line, a code editor, and chat. But here's the kicker, and probably why the scores are so high. It includes its own testing agent.
Ah, so it checks its own homework.
Exactly. It doesn't just generate the code. It actively tests and validates it. That self-correction seems to be the key difference compared to models that still need a human or another tool to check their work.
And you see that in the examples they showed, right? Like building a whole Snake game, styled like retro Nintendo, just from one prompt, no back and forth needed.
Yeah, and they showed it could scale up too. They built a functional LinkedIn clone Connect hub, they called it. Running on Django, modern stack, looked polished. It wasn't just a pretty picture, it was a working app.
I think the most impressive demo, though, was seeing it work on a live GitHub repo. The Writer's Corner, it was called. It went in and implemented complex leaderboard logic based on engagement, recency. It didn't just start clean, it modified an existing system successfully. That feels like a different level of AI coding, true autonomous engineering.
And just before we move off pure code, there was this fascinating little side note about personality. Apparently, OpenAI consulted dozens of psychologists for ChatGPT-5. They wanted to make it less sycophantic.
Sycophantic, like a flatterer.
Yeah, basically. Less likely to just agree with you or tell you what you want to hear. They aimed for more objective helpfulness, maybe even challenging the user a bit. And the result? Some users actually complained. They felt like they'd lost their friend. They missed the old, super agreeable version.
Huh. Speaking of users feeling like they lost a friend, that actually leads perfectly into the business reality check. Because AI adoption, well, it often fails pretty spectacularly sometimes, especially when it's supposed to replace human interaction or, critical thinking. We've all seen those funny examples. Taco Bell's CTO saying their AI voice assistant, sometimes it just lets me down. Or McDonald's ditching their AI drive thrusts after someone got, like, hundreds of dollars worth of chicken nuggets by mistake. The cost of those mistakes adds up fast.
And that failure often comes down to the core problem with generative AI, hallucinations. We focus on how well LLMs predict the next word, but the sources are blunt. They still just make up 5 to 20% of the content.
And for businesses in critical areas, medicine, finance, logistics, you just can't have a 5 or 10% error rate. It forces staff to double-check everything the AI does, which means more work, not less.
Right. And the sources had examples from actual workers, like Reddit comments about accounts teams having to recheck schedules made by AI software. It totally defeated the point of the hiring freeze they did to save money.
Exactly. Or in hospitals, staff not trusting AI systems to sort files correctly because they mix up patient and doctor info. If it makes more work and kills trust, it's just a capital drain, plain and simple.
Which connects directly to that frankly damning MIT report, found that 95% of integrated AI pilots are basically stuck. No measurable impact on profit or loss. Wait, 95% failure rate? That completely changes how we should think about AI adoption, doesn't it? It absolutely does. And that number, it spooked the market. Big time. When that report hit, NVIDIA shares dropped 3.5%, Palantir fell 9%. Investors are starting to ask harder questions, differentiating between the hype and actual successful implementation.
And the sources show companies are feeling it too. 55% regret replacing people with AI. Klarna is a big example. They cut their workforce way down from 3,800 to 2,000, relying more on AI. But then they had to admit service quality and customer satisfaction just plummeted. They learned that sometimes you still need that human touch for quality.
So, okay, how do you actually succeed? How do you get past that 95% failure rate? It seems implementation is everything. More important than the specific model, maybe. That same MIT paper found something interesting. Buying AI tools from specialized vendors works about 67% of the time. Compare that to trying to build it all in-house, only about a one-third success rate. You can't just sprinkle generative AI everywhere and hope for the best.
And that difficulty in getting it right, that ties into the whole AI bubble discussion, doesn't it? The amount of money pouring in is staggering.
Mm-hmm.
Data center investment alone projected $3 trillion over the next 3 years. People are drawing serious parallels to the dot-com bubble.
The numbers are pretty stark when you look at someone like OpenAI. Running their data centers, the chips, the power, the cooling estimated cost is around $40 billion a year, but revenues, maybe $15 to $20 billion currently. That gap, where much more money is going out than coming in, well, that's unsustainable long term
Right.
without massive future payoff.
Okay, let's shift from the virtual world of code and finance to the physical world. Robotics. Infrastructure. Google DeepMind just announced Gemini Robotics 1.5. They say it gives robots an internal monologue. What does that actually mean?
It sounds a bit sci-fi, but it's a really big step for robot autonomy. Essentially, the robot can generate its own reasoning process using natural language. It can think through tasks for itself. So, for example, sorting complex recycling. The robot can now look up the guidelines online first, then figure out a plan. Okay, this goes here, that goes there, based on what it learned. It's planning, reasoning, searching, all at once.
Interesting. Meanwhile, Meta wants to be the Android of robotics with their Project Metabot. They're betting on building the software layer, the operating system for robots, powered by Llama. And they're focused on cracking that really tough physical problem.
Yeah.
Dexterous hand manipulation, making robot hands work like ours.
But not everyone's convinced about the whole humanoid robot direction. Rodney Brooks, he founded iRobot. He's a robotics legend. He calls the humanoid push pure fantasy thinking. Pretty blunt. And his arguments are, well, they're a solid reality check.
What are his main objections? Why the skepticism?
Two big things mainly. First, the data problem. Our hands have something like 17,000 touch receptors. Robots just don't have that kind of sensory data yet to truly replicate fine motor skills, that sense of touch. Second, safety. It gets exponentially harder. If you double a robot's size, its potential impact energy goes up 8 times. Brooks actually predicts that the successful humanoids we see in, say, 15 years won't look human at all. They'll likely have wheels, maybe multiple arms, specialized tools, because the human form isn't always the most efficient for industrial jobs.
Right, but whether they look human or not, all these advanced robots, plus the AI models themselves, need massive hardware. Which brings us to this infrastructure crisis people are talking about. AI is pushing data centers way beyond old limits. Rack power densities heading towards, what, 1 megawatt by 2030? That's insane. That needs a totally different way of thinking about cooling and power.
Totally. And that pressure is forcing radical changes. Especially in Asia Pacific, they're actually projected to overtake the US in data center capacity pretty soon. You're seeing the rise of purpose-built AI factories, data centers designed specifically for this density. The solutions involve things like hybrid cooling, mixing the usual air cooling with direct-to-chip liquid cooling, literally pumping coolant right onto the processors.
And the power delivery itself has to change too, right, to handle that much juice in one spot.
Yeah. There's a big push towards DC power direct current. Vertiv has something called Power Direct Rack. Using DC cuts down on the energy lost when you convert AC power, like from the grid, to the DC power servers actually use. Plus, DC aligns better with renewables like solar. And in places with a shaky power grids, things like modular prefabricated data center units are becoming critical. They can cut deployment time by up to 50%, which is vital when you're in this AI race.
Let's wrap up this infrastructure piece with a slightly scary security note. The Unitree robot dog hack.
Right. This really highlights the immediate physical risks these machines bring. Researchers found this wormable Bluetooth exploit. Basically, by just encrypting the word Unitree and sending it via Bluetooth, they could bypass authentication and get root control, full control of the robot dog. That means someone could potentially weaponize these things or turn them into walking malware carriers pretty easily. No complex hacking needed.
Wow. Okay, that really brings home the complexity of this whole deep dive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got bleeding edge innovation happening side by side with huge vulnerabilities and these astronomical costs.
Yeah, so if we try and summarize this, like snapshot in time, we've got AI coding agents building real apps, robots developing internal reasoning, incredible stuff. But at the same time, businesses are struggling massively with basic hallucination problems. There's this huge spending bubble built on, well, a lot of short-term losses right now.
So the sources seem to point towards two very different possible futures. One is kind of a crash. The VC money dries up because that promised 40% cost saving from AI just doesn't materialize for most companies. You see a big industry shakeout.
And the other path is another leap forward. Maybe someone figures out a fundamentally new neural network architecture, perhaps one that builds in that self-testing capability natively, something that finally cracks the hallucination problem. If that happens, that could kick off the next big boom.
Which leaves you, the listener, with a really interesting question to ponder. Thinking about the Gartner hype cycle, where would you put AI right now? Based on everything we've looked at, the huge failures, the massive investment, but also the genuinely groundbreaking code and robotics. Are we at the peak of inflated expectations? Are we about to slide into the trough of disillusionment? Or maybe, just maybe, are we starting to climb the slope of enlightenment? Definitely something to think about until the next deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. If you've liked what you've heard from us so far, getting these insights. Well, we found this really interesting source this week.
Yeah, a memo, wasn't it, called The Fast Track to AI Mastery.
Exactly. And what really jumped out at me was how they framed the problem.
Yeah.
It's the sheer speed. They literally say AI is evolving at lightning speed.
Right. And their whole pitch, really, is offering this structured way to keep up, to actually leverage it, not just read about it.
So it's not just about random articles or blog posts, which, let's be honest, can be overwhelming.
Definitely. They're arguing for something more deliberate, a system. It seems like this premium content they describe is built around that idea.
Yeah. And if you feel what you've learned so far is beneficial, this sounds like the next step. They talk about this premium access. What is it, like $4.99 a month?
Something like that, yeah. Less than a coffee, basically. And it unlocks 4 specific content streams.
Okay, so what are they?
Well, you've got your weekly and monthly summaries, just keeping you current. Then there's specific educational stuff. They call it AI Now Educate.
Right, for the deeper understanding.
Exactly. Then updates on the latest commercial tools and strategies, really practical stuff. And finally, the heavier part, these conceptual deep dives and frameworks.
That last one sounds potentially a bit much, especially if you're, say, a beginner or just moderately into AI.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But that's where their guarantee comes in, apparently. The source memo is pretty clear on this.
How so?
They promise it's all absolutely beginner-friendly. They take complex ideas like the difference between fine-tuning and using a RAG system, right?
Okay, yeah.
And they break it down. They use analogies, real-world examples. The goal isn't just knowing the term. It's understanding why it matters, how you could, actually use it.
So it's application-focused. Less textbook, more toolkit.
Precisely. It shifts the focus from just knowing about AI to actually building strategies you can apply. The source really emphasizes that gaining stuff you can use at work or, just in your life generally.
It sounds like a curated path then, avoiding the information overload we were talking about.
That seems to be the core value proposition, yeah. For that small monthly fee, you get this distilled high-impact knowledge, structured learning.
So for you, the listener, it means getting past the jargon, getting actionable insights, and basically staying ahead without drowning in information. And they mention you can try for 30 days, cancel anytime. Risk-free, essentially.
Right. It makes you think, doesn't it? In a field moving this fast, maybe relying only on scattered free stuff isn't enough anymore to really get ahead.
That's a really interesting point.
Maybe this kind of focused, structured learning isn't just helpful. Maybe it's becoming essential. The source definitely leans that way. It argues the value of organization really outweighs that minimal cost.